Welcome back to the channel for a brand new video, and in today's video we are going to be doing my game week 19 predictions. We are joined with a guest for these predictions. That guest is Luca from Luca Talks Ball. Please go and drop Luca a sub. You know, generally nice guy. Can be a bit delusional with football opinions, but you know, is a nice guy and you know wouldn't hurt a fly, etc, etc. Really nice friend of mine. Link is obviously in the title of the video. Do go and drop him a subscription. Anyway, game week 19. Big shout out to Luca for jumping on to be the guest. And hopefully we can get some good predictions and, you know, some correct predictions, etc, etc. Like I said, at the end of the season, I will be going through every single prediction that anyone has made, me and the guests, and sort of giving our thoughts on who done well this year in the predictions, who done badly, etc, etc. Let's get on with the video. Make sure you smash a like on the video. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. It is free to do so. And make sure you turn notifications on so you never miss an upload. Let's get on with it. And the first game is Crewe Alexandra taking on Bradford, first of the two 12:30 kickoffs. Now, Crewe Alexandra's last result was a 1-1 draw away from home against Carlisle, where Jack Lancaster saved them in the 82nd minute to get a massive point away from home at Brunton Park. Whilst Bradford City, their last result was also a 1-1 draw, that being at home to Barrow, with an Andy Cook 79th minute goal getting a point for the Bantams. Crewe Alexandra currently sit in 5th place, then 2 points off the automatics, whilst Bradford City sit in 10th, 4 points off the playoff places, I should say. I think this one is going to be an interesting fixture. With it being at home for Crewe, I do see them having a slight advantage over Bradford. I'm going to go with Crewe Alexandra 2, Bradford City 1.
Hi, this is Luca from Luca Talks Ball as an MK Dons content creator. Of course, I'm doing this week's predictions. Thank you very much, Mike Green, for letting me be part of your League 2 predictions. First game I'm going to go for is Crewe Alexandra versus Bradford. I'm going to start off with the Bradford. Bradford, of course, it's been talked about, can they win a game without Andy Cook? And don't get me wrong, Andy Cook is probably one of the best, or the best, League 2 top goal scorers in Sky Bet League 2. I think he's top goal scorer. Second is Alex Gilby for MK Dons. But coming up against a Crewe side, which are on good form, that are 5th place in 30 points. And Crewe are going to be one of those teams that are going to challenge up there. And Bradford are like 6 points off 5th place. And Bradford, for me, had a good start to the season. And that's what Graham Alexander did when he was at MK Dons. And, of course, at the beginning of last season, started the season very well for us. And then it kind of like fell off a bit. So, look, I think Bradford this season are just a bit inconsistent. It's just they'll lose to teams like where teams they expect to win. But I'm going to go for a Bradford win on this one, and I'm going to go 2-1.
Game then is Port Vale taking on Walsall, the second and final 12:30 kickoff in League 2 this weekend. And I said this is a very, very interesting fixture. First place Port Vale, second place Walsall. It's going to be hectic. You know, 59 goals between the two teams scored this season. 69 points accumulated out of a possible 35 games for both teams. It's going to be a good fixture. I think it's going to live up to its expectations in terms of what everyone believes will happen in this game. Port Vale got a 1-1 draw midweek against Cheltenham Town. Ronan Curtis's 94th minute equaliser away from home at Cheltenham, whilst Walsall found themselves on the end of a 3-2 win that was at home against Notts County, with Lowe, Allen and Hall scoring in that, despite a 94th minute Hinchy goal and McGoldrick penalty for the visitors wasn't enough to get anything from the game. I'm going to go goals galore. I know it's probably not going to have goals galore because all these big games get hyped up and never deliver. I'm going to go 4-3 to Walsall.
Second game we have you is Port Vale versus Walsall. What a game in one of the weekend's fixtures in this division in Sky Bet League 2. First versus second, two teams who are favourites to actually go up this season. And my pick was always been Port Vale to go on and win the league this season. Port Vale have had a fantastic season. Yes, the last couple of results, they've kind of had a bit of iffy results. But Port Vale, of course, are sitting top of the league. Walsall, of course, got that great win on Tuesday night. Of course, after that embarrassing 4-0 defeat against League One opposition Charlton Athletic. But you can see this season with Walsall Walsall, of course, do have the likes of Nathan Lowe, a very, very good striker, I'm not going to lie. But they've been very good this season. And I actually think they could really, if they carry on their form, what they've been doing in this division, they could actually get promoted. And I think Walsall will be one of my favourites that will go up in the automatics. I really do. And my order I can see it right now is Port Vale, Walsall and MK Dons. I think those three are the best three teams in the league. Getting on to Port Vale as well. Port Vale had that incredible run under Darren Moore. I think it was like 8-9 games they were unbeaten. They did lose, I think it was Gillingham the other week. They lost to someone the other week. But Darren Moore was a fantastic manager. Best manager in this division, not going to lie. But Port Vale, of course, do have the likes of Jaden Stockley, Connor Grant from MK Dons. But I'm going to go for a Port Vale 2-1 win.
First of the 3 o'clock kickoffs then is Accrington Stanley taking on Bromley. Now, Bromley in their last result was a 2-1 win over Gillingham. Cameron Congreve and Arthurs getting the goals in that one to get a massive 3 points for Bromley against Gillingham. Whilst Accrington Stanley were on the bad side of a 7-goal thriller, losing 5-2 to Grimsby Town in their last fixture. That win for Bromley has pushed them up to 19th place, 6 points above the drop zone, whilst Accrington Stanley are 1 place below their visitors for this fixture in 20th. They're only 4 points above the drop. I do think this one could be interesting. It could be boring. It could go either way for me. I'm going to go Accrington 1, Bromley 1, a 1-1 draw in this one.
Third game, we've got Accrington Stanley versus Bromley. Two teams who are in the bottom are trying to fight for survival. Bromley, I think, of course, are in around that mix of the relegation zone. Of course, they did come up from the National League and had a good start to the season. Weren't as bad as they thought, but they kind of like really fell off the order. And look, you've got to look at Bromley, of course. A team that's obviously got promoted for the first time in the Football League. Coming up against Accrington Stanley. Accrington Stanley have always been around this mix of a relegation zone, even when they were in League One and League Two. But I think this game will probably go in Accrington Stanley's favour. And I'm going to go for 2-1 Accrington.
Next up is Luca's team, MK Dons, away from home against Barrow. Now, MK Dons are on a ridiculous surge, 6 wins in a row. I think it's more than that, I'm not too sure. But they sit in 4th place in League 2, whilst Barrow, their hosts for this weekend, sit in 13th. They have a 1 in their last 6. Really bad form from Barrow. Only 2 losses in there, but really bad form from the Bluebirds. And I do really think MK Dons are going to have the strength and the power in this one. I think they're going to be way too good. They beat a very decent Chesterfield side midweek 3-0. And in that one looked really good. And as I mentioned, Barrow drew 1-1 at Bradford. I think this is going to be only one way for me. Barrow 0, MK Dons 3.
Barrow versus MK Dons. Let's start off with, of course, Barrow. These two met in this fixture last season. Of course, we did lose 1-0. Look, I've never been to Barrow. If the game goes ahead, I will be going this Saturday. I've already got my ticket and coach ticket all planned. 5.5-hour journey to go and watch my boys, MK Dons. Barrow, of course, do have the likes of Charlie Kirk, former Crew Alexander player. They've got Chris Stokes. They've got Theo Facel, I think his name is, or something like that. Dallas as well, Andy Dallas. I think he played for Leeds, I could be wrong. Barrow are one of those teams that are around mid-table. Had a very good, impressive last season, of course, getting into the playoffs. But, of course, just missed out on the playoffs. And we're coming up against Barrow, which is a very, very difficult game. But as me, as an MK Dons fan, we are flying at the moment under Scott Lindsay. Don't get me wrong, 6-6. Look like one of the best teams and to actually go up this season. Scoring goals. Scott Hogan, Alex Gilby, second top goal scorer in Sky Bet League 2. And we look very, very, very impressive. And I'm going to go for an MK Dons 2-1 win.
Chesterfield versus Tranmere is a very interesting tie. You know, look at where both teams are in the division. Chesterfield 3 points off the playoffs in 9th, whilst Tranmere Rovers are 4 points above the drop zone. So it's a really big game for both teams. One team is looking to steer clear of the drop zone, and one team is looking to close in on the playoff places. In terms of their last result then, obviously Chesterfield, as we mentioned, lost 3-0 away from home at MK Dons, whilst Tranmere Rovers drew 2-2 against Morecambe. Again, I don't see anything other than a Chesterfield win. Tranmere can score goals now, but again, I think Chesterfield have a lot more goal-scoring power in their team and fell short against an incredibly in-form MK Dons. I'm going to go Chesterfield 2, Tranmere 1.
Chesterfield versus Tranmere Rovers. Where do we start from here? We're going to start from Tranmere Rovers. And Tranmere Rovers have been very, very, very bad recently. Nigel Atkins, of course, was a very good experienced manager. Managed teams like Southampton in the Premier League. Gone across other divisions and other clubs. Tranmere Rovers this season have been a very, very funny side. Because, yes, they did get 2 wins quite recently. They did beat Stockport in the EFL trophy. So the only thing they're still in is that Bristol Motors Cup. So it's something for them to look forward to if they do make a trip to Wembley. But I think the problem with Tranmere Rovers is that it's just they're not seem to be getting the results. And of course, Nigel Atkins, of course, is a very experienced manager in this division. It's just not quite working out, and they're struggling to score goals. They don't score enough goals. They're very inconsistent this season. But coming up against a Chesterfield side, who are a very, very good side, of course, did lose 3-0 to MK Dons, which I expected was going to be a very tough game. But no, we put them in to sleep. So I'm going to have to go for a Chesterfield win here. And I'm going to have to go for 2-0 Chesterfield.
Doncaster Rovers against Cheltenham is our next fixture. Now, Doncaster, were in fine form on Wednesday night, beating a very decent Fleetwood side 4-2 away from home. Kyle Hurst getting a goal, Owen Bailey, Billy Sharp, you know, some really good talent in that Doncaster side. Obviously, they still got Luke Molyneux. You know, they are a very, very good side and a threat for most teams in this division, whilst Cheltenham, well, they drew 1-1 at home to Port Vale, didn't they? They took the lead after 53 minutes, George Miller. And as I mentioned, Ronan Curtis, 94th minute equaliser for Port Vale. That must have hurt. Doncaster in the division then sit in 3rd. They recovered a bit of bad form that they were on there, unbeaten in their last 5. Whilst you look at Cheltenham Town and they sit in 15th, middle of the table. Probably just going to stay there throughout the season. I'm going to go with Doncaster 3, Cheltenham 1.
Doncaster Rovers versus Cheltenham. Of course, Doncaster, we start off with them. Doncaster got that 4-2 win over Fleetwood. Doncaster always going to be up there and amongst around the playoff places. Very, very good side. Got the experienced players. They did beat Kettering Town in the FA Cup last week. So I was very disappointed because Kettering's not far from my area. But this one's, look, Cheltenham are one of those sides where, of course, they could pull out and obviously get a result somewhere. Because Cheltenham, of course, did go 2-0 up at MK Dons. And then, of course, I was at that game and then we won 3-2. But I think for me, I've really got a good feeling that Cheltenham might get something in this game. And I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw against Doncaster.
Gillingham versus Salford. Now, if you would have asked me this game, for my prediction for this game 3-4 months ago, or 2-3 months ago, I would have said Gillingham will absolutely batter Salford. But no, the tides have completely changed. I think Gillingham have just won in their last 8 or 9. Really terrible form that Gillingham are on, despite a very promising start to the season under Mark Bonner. Salford City sitting in 11th place above Gillingham for this fixture. In terms of the last result then, Gillingham did lose, like I said, 2-1 to Bromley in their last fixture, while Salford City managed a 2-0 home win against Harrogate Town. Ben Woodburn, Cole Stockton getting the goals. Are Salford finally finding a bit of, fight in this season? 4 points off the playoffs. Again, Gillingham 5 points off. I'm going to go with an away victory here. I think Salford are the better team right now. Gillingham 0, Salford 1.
Gillingham versus Salford. Going to start off with Salford here. Salford, of course, did win the FA Cup last week, and they were in the third round of the FA Cup and will be playing Premier League champions Manchester City. So that is a derby to look forward to. Of course, it's both in Manchester. Coming up against Gillingham, my score prediction I'm going to go for. Salford have actually done okay in the last 4 games. I think they've won 2, drawn 1 and lost 1. So they did beat Harrogate as well the other week. They're also in the third round of the FA Cup. I'm going to go score prediction. I'm going to go for a Gillingham win here, and I'm going to go for a 2-1 Gillingham.
Harrogate Town against AFC Wimbledon. Now, Harrogate, as I mentioned, just lost 2-0 to Salford away from home. AFC Wimbledon drew with my boys Newport County, where Shane McLaughlin scored a 96th, 97th minute penalty to rescue a point. This is a difficult one to predict. Most people will just go AFC, bang, they're going to win. But Harrogate have beaten some good teams at home this season. And they have a weird record that they'll lose, and then they might pick up a win, then they might lose 3 or 4, then they might draw or win. I'm going to go for a shock in these predictions. These predictions are there to, give you my honest predictions, and I honestly, deep down, believe Harrogate can get something from this game. I'm going to go Harrogate 2, AFC Wimbledon 1.
Harrogate versus AFC Wimbledon. Score prediction I'm going to go for this one. I'm going to go for an AFC win. I can't believe I'm saying this as an MK Dons content creator, but I'm going to go for an AFC Wimbledon 1-0 win over Harrogate Town.
Morecambe up against Grimsby. The Shrimps against the Mariners. A bit of fish reference there, but I think this one is only going to go one way. Grimsby, as I mentioned, won 5-2 in midweek against Accrington Stanley, whilst Morecambe, again, they drew 2-2 away at Tranmere, and they kind of need to start winning games rather than just drawing them. Morecambe sitting only above Carlisle in 22nd on goal difference, whilst Grimsby Town are in the playoffs. Only 2 defeats in their last 6, playing some nice football as well, scoring goals. They scored 24 goals this season so far, and I just don't see Morecambe offering any real threat. I'm going to go Morecambe 1. I think they'll get a goal. Morecambe 1, Grimsby 3.
Morecambe versus Grimsby. Of course, Grimsby are on very good form. Not as bad. Of course, they've won 2, drawn 2 and lost 1. So, and they're still in among the playoffs. They actually are in the playoffs, and they're 7th in the league. Grimsby, of course, are going to be one of those teams where I don't think they're not going to make it into the playoffs. I know those last 5 games I've just mentioned, but there's been results where they should have done better, like they drew to Newport, which I expected, and they should have beaten Newport County. Morecambe themselves as well beat Bradford in the FA Cup second round, which was a bit of a shock, really. And Morecambe are in trying to battle for relegation, and just outside of relegation, still in the FA Cup, and they're in third round of the FA Cup. So score prediction, I'm actually going to go for. I'm going to go for a Morecambe win. I think they're going to continue that win from the FA Cup, and I'm going to go for a 2-0 Morecambe.
Well, what a game at Rodney Parade. Newport County against Carlisle, 6-pointer. Whatever anyone says, this is a 6-pointer. Carlisle are currently sat in 23rd place on 14 points. We're in 16th on 22 points. 8 points between the two teams. Should Carlisle beat us on Saturday, it then goes to 5, and then you're starting to worry. So this is a massive game. Ultimately, we are still only 6 points off the playoffs, which that could potentially go to 3 or whatever should we win. This is literally a must-win game, and potentially must-win for Nelson Jardim as well. Must win for Mike Williamson and Carlisle. You know, Carlisle's last result was a was their 1-1 draw against Crewe. My mind literally went blank, and our draw last game was 2-2 against AFC Wimbledon. It is must win. I'm going to go Newport 1, Carlisle 0. Am I confident? Probably not, but I'm going to go 1-0 home victory.
Next game is Mike Williamson's Carlisle United against Newport County. We're going to start off with Newport County, Mike Green's team. Newport County, of course, have had a bit of a bad start to the season. They've really had. If you have a look at the results from September to now, in the last 3 months, Newport County had a bit of a terrible run. The last 3 games, they've drawn. They had 2 0-0 draws. Of course, they drew to Fleetwood. Drew to Notts County and drew to AFC Wimbledon. So when you look at those accountability results, I think it's not good enough in my opinion, because they should be doing better. And but in those run of games, they've lost like 7, drawn 3 and won 3 within games from September. So it's very bad. For this one against Carlisle, look, Carlisle got a very good, impressive win. They're trying to battle for survival. I do think they will survive this season, especially with an experienced manager like Mike Williamson. It hasn't really gotten to the best starts, but I'm going to go for a Newport County win. They desperately need to start getting back to winning ways, and I'm going to go for a 2-0 Newport.
Ultimate game of the match day then is Notts County taking on Colchester United. Now, Notts County, as I mentioned, were on the bad end of a 5-goal thriller at the Bestcott Stadium, losing 3-2 to Walsall, whilst Colchester United absolutely obliterated Swindon Town 4-0. 2 goals from Samson Avide in there as well. And, you know, Colchester played really well in that game from what I've seen. Swindon were just really bad. Colchester 17th then, 21 points, whilst Notts County, after that defeat to Walsall, and they haven't won in their last 4. Notts County only 1 win in their last 6 as well. They sit in 6th place, 4 points off the automatics. I'd like to think Colchester could continue a bit of form there, but I just don't see it, especially with Notts County being at home. I'm going to go with a 3-1 home win for Notts County.
Notts County versus Colchester. Notts County have not really been on good form this season. Of course, Notts County were one of the favourites to obviously be challenging up there with the likes of Port Vale, Walsall, Doncaster and MK Dons. But Notts County have not been on a bit of a good form recently in the last 6 games. They've lost the last few games. They lost 3-2 to Walsall. They lost to Peterborough 4-3. But Notts County is positive, I will say about that they have been scoring quite a few goals in the last few games, but not being able to pull up results. And they're coming up against a Colchester side who are 17th, not having a good season. Colchester, of course, are really may need to be around that mid-table, around that near the relegation. But I'm actually going to go for a Notts County win, and I'm going to go for probably a 1-0 Notts County win.
Final game of the match day then is Swindon Town taking on Fleetwood Town. Now, my thoughts on this are Swindon are terrible. You know, let's not cover this up. Swindon are absolutely abysmal. And I think most Swindon fans would agree with that right now. A 4-0 defeat last week, or in midweek, sorry, to Colchester. Fleetwood, yes, I know they lost 4-2 to Doncaster, but Doncaster are a very good side. In terms of the league table then, Fleetwood sit in 14th place on 22 points. Swindon rock bottom of the division, and I just don't see another win coming for them. I really don't see another win coming. I am going to go in this fixture for Swindon 0, Fleetwood 2. I think Fleetwood are going to get another set of 3 points to bounce back after that defeat to Doncaster, and more woes continue for Swindon Town in this season.
Next one, Swindon Town versus Fleetwood. Swindon, of course, are sitting in 24th with 13 points, having a dreadful season. Swindon Town, I actually think they're going to get relegated. I really think they're going to go into the National League. Not having a really great seasons. Coming up against a Fleetwood Town side who did, of course, had the worst team in League One last season, not going to lie, especially with points tally, picking up not good results. Fleetwood, of course, did play their last match on Wednesday against Doncaster Rovers and lost 4-2. With Fleetwood, of course, are sitting on 22 points, about 6-7 points off the playoffs. a very inconsistent side, but on their day they can be good and pull out results. That's what the COD Army are about. And I expect an away win. I really do. They need to start winning football matches. Fleetwood, Charlie Adam, of course, an experienced manager, good manager for Fleetwood. But is he the right man to, of course, show that pecking order to get Fleetwood back into League One? I'm not sure. I think he needs another season or so. But I'm going to go for a Fleetwood 2-0 win against Swindon Town.
So then that wraps up this video of Game Week 19 predictions. Big shout out to Luca for jumping on and becoming the guest for this game week. Obviously, massively appreciate anyone that decides to come on and obviously be a guest for a video. It really does appreciate, or really is appreciative. And make sure you go and show him the support that he needs. He should be going to Barrow against MK Dons if that game goes ahead tomorrow. So make sure you check his vlog out tomorrow after that. And yeah, make sure you smash a like on the video, subscribe to this channel. Match day vlog tomorrow for Carlisle at home, fan cams, etc, etc. And I'll speak to you in the next video. Thanks for watching.